So if you've been endlessly searching online for the exact Rashtriya Raksha University Cybersecurity Master's score requirement, I've got some news for you. You're likely hunting for a magic number that, well, simply doesn't exist. Welcome to this explainer. Today we are going to completely demystify RRU's admission process. We're going to cut right through the noise, bypass all that marketing fluff, and reveal the actual unvarnished truths about how they admit students and what their super strict online exam proctoring actually looks like in practice. Our goal here is to explain everything in detail so you can tackle your application with total, absolute clarity.
Here's our roadmap for today. Number 1, we'll clarify the 2 different cyber degrees. 2, we'll cover MSc eligibility and the RCET exam. 3, we are going to bust that infamous score cutoff myth. 4, we'll unpack the strict online proctoring rules. And finally, number 5, we'll look at placements and regional campuses.
All right, let's dive into Section 1. 2 different cyber degrees, the first big misconception.
Okay, there is a massive error that almost every single Prep Academy blog just glosses right over. They assume there's only one cybersecurity master's degree at RRU, but actually there are 2 entirely distinct postgraduate routes. This is absolutely crucial because if you're reading generic advice about the RRU cybersecurity masters, you are probably getting mixed signals. On one hand, you've got the MSc in Cybersecurity and Digital Forensics. That's a 2-year program integrated with a 1-year PG diploma, and it's run by the School of Information Technology, Artificial Intelligence, and Cybersecurity, or CITICS for short. To get into this one, you have to take RRU's own entrance exam, the RCET. But on the other hand, you have the MTech in Cybersecurity. Now, this is a totally separate, much more technically specialized route, and it has a completely different entry gate.
To even touch that specialized MTech route, you must have a valid GATE score of at least 50% or above. No way around it. If you've just got a standard bachelor's degree and no GATE score, the MTech is completely off the table. The MSc route is the one that's actually open to you. It's a huge distinction, right? And it totally changes how you prep. Since most applicants are aiming for the MSc route anyway, let's pivot and focus entirely on that.
Moving right along to Section 2. MSc eligibility and RCET, the entry gate.
The baseline requirements for the MSc program are actually highly specific. Like most postgrad programs at RRU, you get in through the RCET, the RRU Common Entrance Test. It's an online, computer-based exam. But hold on, before you can even register for it, you must have passed your graduation with a minimum of 55% aggregate marks, and crucially, it has to be in a relevant subject. If you hit those baseline academic gates, you're cleared to test. Just to give you a quick sense of the timeline based on their official data, for the 2026-27 cycle, the RCET PG happened on June 21, 2026. Getting a handle on these granular eligibility details is step 1 in taking control of your application.
Okay, Section 3. The score cutoff myth. Breaking the Prep Academy narrative.
The million-dollar question. If you search for this online, you're going to find dozens of websites confidently giving you a specific number. But here is why you need to be really careful. A huge chunk of the information out there comes from coaching businesses. And let's be honest, they have a massive financial incentive to make the exam sound way harder and specifically more score-gated than it actually is. It is so much easier for them to sell you a course if they can just say, hey, buy our prep material to beat the 75-point cutoff.
So what's the reality? The crucial takeaway here is that there is absolutely no explicit hard numeric cutoff for RRU admission. None at all. 0. That is the honest truth you need to lead with. Chasing a phantom number manufactured by some coaching center is just going to give you a false sense of security, or worse, a ton of unnecessary anxiety. Instead, you really need to understand the actual mechanics of how they decide who gets a seat.
And that brings us to how it genuinely works. Relative merit ranking. This breaks down exactly how they calculate who gets an offer. The university looks at your performance across your academic record, your entrance test score, and sometimes even fitness evaluations or a basic interview. They take all of that and combine it into a merit list. The exact score you need changes every single cycle. It depends entirely on who else applied that year and how many seats they have. If the applicant pool is packed with absolute geniuses one year, the implicit threshold rises. If it's a totally different dynamic the next year, it adjusts. You are competing dynamically against your peers, not against some static number carved into a stone tablet.
Let's move into Section 4. Strict online proctoring rules. What it actually means.
RRU's official documentation explicitly mandates that the examination is conducted under strict online proctoring.
But what does that actually mean when you're just sitting in your bedroom taking a test? Well, because the university's public guidelines can be a bit brief on the software mechanics, we really want to explain everything in detail based on what this level of remote proctoring realistically and verifiably tracks today. First off, expect rigorous identity verification, where your face has to perfectly match your ID. Then comes continuous behavioral monitoring. This software is literally tracking your eye gaze, your posture, your head movements. If you keep darting your eyes down and to the left, the system is logging it. It also uses environmental scanning designed to catch things like a phone in your lap, an open textbook, or a second monitor. There's constant audio monitoring too, so talking or even someone just opening your door triggers a flag. And yes, there is total logging of your screen activity. You definitely cannot just casually open up a new browser tab to Google an answer.
Because this software is so incredibly heavy and demanding on your computer, testing your device beforehand is absolutely critical. I literally cannot stress this enough. If you have technical failures during a proctored exam, that is your problem to solve in the moment, not RRU's. If your Wi-Fi drops or your camera just decides not to talk to their software, the clock is still ticking on your end. The university's guidelines heavily emphasize reading their user guide and testing your whole setup well before test day.
Now let's bring this down to earth for a second, summarized perfectly by this quote. A flagged session doesn't necessarily mean instant disqualification, but it does get reviewed. Meaning, if your lighting shifts because a cloud went over the sun, or your dog wanders into the background and barks, the software will probably flag you. But don't panic. An actual human being is going to review that flag and see it was just an innocent glitch. However, you absolutely cannot assume you can quietly bend the rules. The system is highly sensitive, and if you're intentionally trying to game it, you will for sure be caught.
Almost at the finish line. Section 5. Placements and regional campuses, beyond the main hub.
Looking at recent placement figures, graduates report landing some pretty impressive roles at major organizations. Think Ernst & Young, Bank of America, CyberEQ, various government agencies, and Hawkeye. The average starting packages are reported to be right around 6 to 8 lakh rupees per annum. But hey, notice the header on this table, self-reported placement details. We're keeping things very honest here. We are transparently presenting this as a self-reported student range, not some ironclad audited university guarantee. It gives you a really fantastic benchmark of what's possible. But remember, it's a reported reality, not a contract.
So where can you actually study for this degree? A lot of generic videos only talk about the main hub. But to explain everything in detail, we have to point out that the MSc in Cybersecurity and Digital Forensics isn't just locked to Gandhinagar. The program actually spans across several of RRU's regional campuses, including Puducherry, Madhya Pradesh, Pasigat, Shivamogga, and Lucknow. This is super relevant, especially if you happen to live near a city like Lucknow. You don't necessarily have to pack up and move across the entire country to access the specific CyTIX curriculum.
As we wrap up this deep dive, just a quick word of caution. The mechanics of relative merit and the intense proctoring, those stay largely the same. But the exact dates, specific eligibility rules, and seat counts, those shift every single year. So please, make sure you use the official RRU Guidelines PDF as your ultimate source of truth for the specific year you're applying. Definitely do not rely solely on this explainer, or any other video for that matter, a year from now when looking for a specific deadline date.
All right, so we've broken down the two totally distinct degrees. We've completely exposed the myth of the cutoff score. We've detailed the intense, granular reality of remote proctoring. And we've mapped out the regional campuses and potential outcomes. I want to leave you with this final really important thought. Knowing there is no fixed score to hide behind, how will you prepare to genuinely stand out in the relative merit pool under the watchful eye of strict online proctoring? Your preparation can't just be about hitting some arbitrary mock test number anymore. It has to be about demonstrating true, undeniable competence. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and best of luck with your preparation.